Welcome to this week's Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield here on the Rural Radio Network. Quite the interesting marketing week. We're now into the month of June. So that should mean we should see some more grilling activity. But what does that mean when it means retail movement? We're going to look at not only that, we're looking at a cattle bill that's being pushed both through the House and the Senate. What kind of implications is that going to have not only on the cattle market, but what we're seeing from that actual market perspective? We'll talk about some grass movement, opportunity that is to maybe put some more cows and heifers out to grass. So some good news coming for the industry. And if I didn't mention it, weights are down on cattle. That's something we haven't talked about in a long time. Brad Kooima joins us again this week. He's with Kooima and Barlick out of Sioux Center, Iowa. So let's start out. I want to talk about this cattle bill because there's a lot of work behind the scenes, both from our Nebraska senator and your Iowa senator to get this done.
Yeah, timely question. I happen to have opportunity to be at a meeting last night in Cherokee, Iowa, with Senator Grassley and Congressman Randy Feenstra, who is up in our neck of the woods. Congressman Feenstra's family, by the way, is a big cattle feeder right in my neck of the woods. Go to church with a couple of his in-laws. So he gets it. He's got manure on his boots, speaking metaphorically. Senator Grassley, of course, has been a champion for this cattle reform for 20 years, I guess, ago is the first time he introduced some sort of legislation. The meeting, I think, was obviously part of its politics, of course, but part of it was to get a bit of an update on where the Fisher-Grassley bill is at and its companion bill, which has moved out of the House of Representatives Ag Committee. Representative Feenstra is on that Ag Committee, and of course Grassley is a big part of the Senate Ag Committee. So they both have passed out of their respective committees, and both are now waiting for the majority and majority leaders to decide when it's going to get brought to the floor for a vote. Now, politics are hard to predict, frustrating. What's the right word here? They both have been assured that it's going to happen soon, which is of relative varying degree. Soon to me is like, okay, like tomorrow. Yeah, but maybe sometime this month. At least the Senate thing, Senator Grassley felt like it would probably happen in a matter of a couple of weeks. Maybe not quite as tight a timeline on the House. So it's as far as we've gotten a bill like that a bill like this has gotten ever. Is it a layup? Is it a lock? Nope. I remain optimistic that there's a chance that we could affect change, but we'll see. It's a steep hill, So what we're getting through the first of the barriers to get at least talked about.
All right. So before we jump into what's been happening in this markets, real quick, you as a cattle producer talking to another cattle producer out there, what should they be doing right now, Brad? Should they be reaching out? Who do they need to talk to get this moving a little bit better?
Well, if they believe that something needs to change, if they believe that we need to do something to stop the further deterioration of this negotiated trade, to stop this move toward more vertical integration, then I would encourage them to reach out to their representatives and their senators and say, you know what, this is something that you need to look hard at. This is something that we believe we need to have to maintain our way of life out here in rural America. So if you're in that, I kind of think I know how Iowa's going to vote. Obviously, I would expect Nebraska to follow Senator Fisher, right? But
right.
If you're out there, pick up the phone, call them up, tell them why you think you ought to do it, what they should do.
All right, let's talk about something we don't talk about. And I can't remember the last time we did talk, and that is the drop in weights of these cattle.
I've been trying to ignore it because I've been so disgusted that these average weights don't come down. To be honest, yeah, we finally have something to report on that front, Susan. I mean, I look around me and I've got all kinds of anecdotal evidence that these weights are coming off. I mean, my customers, myself, we can't wait to sell cattle. We want to stop the feed bill, basically, feeding this high-priced corn. And on top of the cost of gain, the other matter, of course, is that you got a futures structured market that's telling you it's going to get worse. The futures trading at a big discount is telling the producer that, you know what, sell them as quick as you can because it's going to get worse. And so those two things, I think, have contributed to finally getting us very, very current. Now, broader picture, that is only negative for a little while. That's not bearish down the road at all. Peeling the weights off the cattle like that is very, very positive. So specifically your weight question. So last week, again, point of contention for me, but we get weight data that's 13 days old, happens to be part of the Fisher Grassley bill that we would get them on a timely basis, like as in the next day, like the hog guys do. But so the 13-day-old data finally had steer and heifer carcasses down 10 pounds from the week prior and 5 pounds down from the same week a year ago. That would mark the first time since the COVID thing that we are below a year ago on weights. Pretty big deal, I think. So let's keep an eye on it again this week. Hopefully, the old one robin doesn't make it spring syndrome. Hopefully, those weights stay down there. I think they will. So finally, a little bit of ray of sunshine, huh?
Well, how are we doing export wise? I mean, I was at USMEF where we talked last week, and they were very pleased with the export numbers that have been coming in.
Especially last week, a big pickup finally, so a real solid number. Yeah. Unfortunately, the imports are higher too, which I don't know. That's above my pay grade to be able to explain or understand, or why we can't seem to do anything about that. But we continue to see robust demand. I believe plenty good enough demand domestically, but a world that hopefully has got a bit of a taste of what we have. Also notice that it looks like China's going to relax their import deal. I think that was part of the hog story today, by the way, and maybe part of the bean story too, where if they relax their import restrictions here due to COVID again, that maybe we can get something moving that way. So I'm really not worried about the demand side of the beef thing unless we go into a full-fledged, upside down recession thing, which hopefully we can avoid, but there's certainly some economic risk out there as well.
Well, we're into the month of June now. Summer is officially here. Kids are getting out of school. How is retail movement going to go considering all the other outside influences that are coming into our paychecks?
We're in the fourth quarter of the easy domestic demand. Okay. We're getting late in the game. Typically, if you get a week ahead of Father's Day, the thing changes. Okay. Vacations, you're through that first, it's really nice out, let's grill a steak thing. Mother's Day, of course, is the biggest beef feature of the whole year for steak cuts. So some of that stuff's getting behind us now, Memorial Day. And then you switch to more of a hamburger, hot dog, we're on vacation, BLT next. So I'm not predicting a collapse on this beef market by any means, but I would think that you're getting into the waning seconds of the game here of the easy domestic demand. But typically when you get to the end of June, that's when we start to call for a futures bottom. That's when we start to look for the thing to turn. I'm kind of in the camp that we got a lot of cattle to sell. Don't forget we had record placements 3 out of 4 months last fall. We got a lot of heifer calves that we've talked about a lot, right? On feed instead of being turned into mama cows, and we got to get rid of them. And so we will kill a lot of cattle here for the next while yet. But if we keep pulling them forward, taking the tonnage off the market like we are, I think we make the bottom a little higher and a little quicker than what most people think.
Well, you talk about this grass, and it's nice to see areas that have not had rain are getting some rain, making some greener grass, maybe keeping some of those cows and heifers around a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I'll make someone feel bad that missed the last rain or something like that, and I hope you get the next one. But there are a lot of areas that have had some really wonderful rains. And I'm talking about across the Dakotas, Wyoming, Montana, traditional cow-calf areas. And the other day, I finally struck my dense head. We were talking about how high these light cattle are at the sale barns and stuff. These what they call grass cattle. In other words, cattle that guys are going to buy to turn out on grass. And I'm going like, I don't suppose these cattle would be so high if there wasn't any grass. I mean, it's kind of like, clearly there's a lot of areas that must have grass because they dare to buy these cattle and pay a big, big price for them because they're going to turn them out. But to the point, yes, you're going to have less cow kill, beef cow kill. And that's the first thing. And then the next thing would be is if they can sustain this grass into the fall. I know that they're chomping at the bit to reload, replace those cows they had to sell, get those replacement heifers back into the herd. And instead of every heifer having to go to the feedlot, a large percentage of them will stay at home and they'll grow them up into would-be cows. So that's the cycle that's the 2014 like cycle. Okay. So when and where, if I only knew the exact day and time, right? But we've set it up. We've set it up for that potential here going into next year.
All right. We'll look forward to talking to you again next week to find out where we're at.
Sounds good.
All right, Brad Kooima has been joining us this week. Just a reminder, folks, commodity futures and options involve a substantial risk of loss, not suitable to all investors. And that's this week's Cattle Call on the Rural Radio Network.